Susan Blum.
And did you have any nicknames growing up?
Yes. I was short. And I believe the only nickname that I ever had was Peanuts. Small.
Where were you born and when were you born?
October 21st, 1942. I was born in Brooklyn.
And did you grow up in Brooklyn?
I spent a good deal of my childhood in Brooklyn before I went away to college. Most of the time, we traveled a little bit because my father was in the service. And when he came home from the European front, he was a dentist. We traveled to Alabama, Texas. We traveled around because he took care of people's teeth.
What's your father's name?
Murray.
Okay, and what's your mother's name?
Ethel.
And what does she do?
Ran my father and the rest of us with a very loving hand.
Is there anything that your parents did that influenced your passion for the law?
I don't think so. What my parents did was set a good example and give me what I consider a reasonable moral compass. We had a loving, warm, extended family. Things were sort of different those days than they are today. People spent their spare time with family. It wasn't soccer practice and violin lessons and jiu-jitsu and taekwondo and running from one activity to the next and then back to a tutor. And then most of the time on Saturday and Sunday, you got in the car and went to a relative that had the house farthest out in the country. Hopeful, and when you finally found a relative that had out in the country with a pool, that was heaven. Their house became the vacation place. So I spent a good deal of my time growing up. After our family was sort of reunited after World War II, I was just a baby at that time. Reconnecting with family, who was sort of spread out. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, sure. Did you? Was your immediate family big? Did you have siblings?
I have a brother who's also a dentist, David,
Okay.
who is 5 years my junior and reminds me of that whenever he possibly can.
What was Judge Judy like as a kid? Were you outspoken?
I was a brat. I think I was precocious is, I think, a word that my father would have preferred. He would have used both precocious and a brat. I like to think that I was fun. From what they tell me, I was fun and an interesting child. Got into trouble, as many little kids did. One of the houses we lived in Virginia, we lived with another family who became good friends of our family. And they had 3 sons. And we were all very young. I was 3, I think, 2 or 3 at the time. And those boys were 5, 4, and 2. So I grew up to be a bit of a tomboy in those early years.
Did you have hobbies?